Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're breaking down a really fascinating, deeply emotional psychological framework that comes from a historical spiritual text. It presents this totally radical shift in how we process the ideas of waiting, hope, and gratitude. And the goal here is to completely rewire how we approach our quietest struggles and our deepest requests. It's basically a structured look at how to move from a place of desperate pleading to a place of settled ownership. So let's just jump right into it. The source material sets out to answer this one central mystery. Why on earth would you give thanks before you actually see the miracle or the result you're waiting for? Now, the text fully acknowledges this hidden, really heavy exhaustion that a lot of us feel when we're just stuck waiting for an answer. Because let's be honest, thanking someone before you see the proof, it can kind of feel like hypocrisy or just naive foolishness. But the real answer to this question is actually stranger and far more beautiful than just trying to flatter a giver into action. Part 1. The exhaustion of waiting. The silent ache. To really understand the solution here, we've got to look at the problem first. And there's just a profound empathy in this text for the absolute weariness of waiting. It outlines these very specific, quiet struggles. A prayer for a child's healing, a desperate promise to literally shout from the rooftops if just one door opens up, a wife making private bargains for her marriage, or a single dad just sort of dropping a small petition into the dark right before sleep. When waiting goes on long enough, repeating those exact same hopeful lines, well, it starts to feel like rubbing salt into an unhealed cut. And out of that sheer desperation, we start making these secret, quiet bargains with heaven. Moving on to part 2, transactional gratitude, the hidden traps. Now, what's really interesting about this is how it diagnoses the absolute root of our internal conflict when it comes to being thankful. Basically, human systems and flawed teachings have weaponized gratitude. We've been slowly trained, whether by early childhood experiences or maybe harsh religious teachings, to view thanking as a wage, as a currency, or a form of leverage. We've been handed this completely falsified picture of gratitude as a tool for manipulation. We're taught that, hey, if we just find the exact right volume, the most eloquent phrasing, or the perfect posture, we can somehow persuade a really difficult patron to finally release a gift. It makes us believe that love and answers, well, they have to be earned through our performance. And man, there's a profound psychological burden here. You might actually be carrying the suspicion that your gratitude is literally just a kind of currency. There's this quiet shame, this secret embarrassment that creeps in when we realize our prayers have basically devolved into persuasive negotiations. We hold back our thanks because we don't want to lose our leverage, or we calibrate our words perfectly just to, tip the scales in our favor. This heavy secondary load is very real, but the text makes it clear this transactional habit, it absolutely did not originate from the true source of these gifts. Which brings us to part 3, petitioner versus heir, a shift in identity. Okay, so this right here, this is the absolute game changer. It's the crucial conceptual shift proposed by the text. Think about a petitioner. A petitioner stands at a bank counter and bargains. They craft these highly persuasive sentences and they tremble, constantly calibrating exactly how much they're allowed to ask for. But an heir behaves completely differently. An heir doesn't stand around flattering the estate lawyer. They just walk right through the front door of the estate and receive what is already theirs. They take a small spoon from the kitchen drawer because, well, it's their kitchen. They sit down at a table that was set for them before they could even spell their own name. True gratitude is just the natural, quiet sound of an heir acknowledging what the document already says belongs to them. Part 4, unbreakable inheritance. 1 Peter 1:4. To really ground this concept, let's dive into some specific historical context. This specific text was written to a scattered band of believers across ancient Turkey. Now, these were people who had been massively displaced, demoted, and mocked. They had lost homes, their fishing boats, literally their Roman citizenship because of their beliefs. Imagine them sitting in these cramped, low-ceiling rooms, eating from small bowls, just wondering if they had been completely forgotten. And the following text is framed not as some polite lesson in bearing loss with dignity, but as a bold, massive reminder of what absolutely cannot be taken away from them. Let's move through this and see how this promise builds word by word. The first word is inheritance. And it is very clear this is not a wage, it's not a bonus, and it's definitely not a commission. An inheritance belongs to you strictly because of who you are in relation to the owner. Because it was deeded to you before you were even born. You literally cannot earn it into being. And even more importantly, underperforming at your job, having a Wednesday full of doubt, or just an exhausted month, none of that can lose it for you because it was never tied to your output in the first place. Next up, we have imperishable. Unlike the world around us, which constantly trades imperishables, bread that goes stale, plans that just expire, this gift is built out of an entirely different substance. If you walk into that storehouse years or even decades from now, the gift will not have rotted or spoiled. The decades of your waiting subtract absolutely nothing from the weight and reality of the gift. Then we have undefiled, and I just love how highly empathetic this point is. Earthly wages are so often mixed with the contamination of how we earn them, right? Compromises, resentments, hidden costs. But this legacy bears absolutely none of those marks. In our last week where you practically gave up and threw in the towel, it leaves zero smudges or stains on this promised legacy. It sits in the vault perfectly clean, completely intact, and totally unpolluted by any human weakness. The fourth word is unfading. This elegantly contrasts with human treasures. Think about gold that tarnishes, silver that darkens, or a folded piece of cloth that totally loses its color when the curtains stay drawn. The legacy kept for you does not pale just because you forgot it was sitting in there. Whenever you finally walk in to lift it down from the shelf, it will be just as luminous as the exact day it was set aside. And finally, kept. The source emphasizes this as a very active verb. This treasure isn't just sitting out in some wide-open warehouse gathering dust. It is actively guarded behind doors that only have one key. It is completely insulated from failing economies or corrupt officials. And crucially, it's highly personalized. It has your specific name right on it. It isn't just tossed into a generic pile and handed out to whoever happened to pray the loudest this week. Part 5. Gratitude as a receipt. Signing for the gift. So now that we know what this inheritance looks like, how do we practically apply this to our lives? Well, it all comes down to this absolutely brilliant ultimate takeaway. The inheritance is yours. The gratitude is the receipt. Think about it. You don't sign for a delivery from someone who hasn't given you anything. You sign to confirm what has already been transferred to you. Therefore, saying thank you in advance, it's not some manipulative trigger to force an action. It is quite simply the signed recognition of an account that was already filled in your name. The text actually offers a really practical weekly exercise to help train your mind into this new paradigm. Step 1. Notice that little internal flinch or resistance you feel when you think about thanking before you actually see the proof. Step 2. Pose a genuinely honest question to yourself. Am I thanking to get something? Or because it is already mine? If it's to get something, well, you're back at the bargaining counter. Take a breath. But step 3, if you realize it's already yours, just speak the thank you out loud. Practicing this small sequence gradually empties out that anxious bargaining counter in your mind and slowly but surely fills up the dining room of your inheritance. So, we're going to leave you with this final provocative thought today. It's a question that really challenges the very foundation of how we express our gratitude during those long periods of waiting. Are you thanking to get something or because something is already yours? By shifting our posture from a stressed-out petitioner to a fully settled heir, we can actually find a profound sense of peace, transforming our gratitude from a desperate, exhausted currency into a simple, beautiful receipt. Thank you so much for joining us for this explainer, and we really hope this breakdown helps you reflect on the true nature of your own gratitude.